Blackhawks fans, and welcome in to Hawks Happy Hour here with the Four Feathers podcast. I am Johnny Nani, got Ron Luce and Tony on tap alongside me. Gentlemen, how we doing this fine Friday happy hour? Crack 'em, boys.
Hashtag crack 'em. I'm doing well, gentlemen. It's good to be back on the mic with both of you. I think the last time that all three of us were on a microphone together was circa March or April of this calendar year. So it's been a hot minute. It feels good to be back with you guys.
It's been a while. You guys have been holding the fort down over here, talking all that hockey. It's good to be back on here. I'm going to try my best pronouncing names of guys that I don't even know. You guys will correct me along the way. We're going to get through this. It'll be great. Just like you guys gave everybody tips on the last episode on how to get through hockey season. I'm going to need some tips on how to get through the show with you guys. It's great to be back talking Blackhawks hockey. We got to go out actually for the first time as a crew. I'm sure you guys talked about it. Got me real excited for this season. And the Hawks have not disappointed. They've been exactly what I've expected. Guys, it's great to be back.
Yeah, gentlemen, great to be back. All three of us here. Obviously, it was fun attending that preseason game against Detroit, but we're in the real deal now. We've got a couple of regular season games to talk about, and the theme of the show, let's get tanked. The tank is off to a hot start. Can we touch on that? Some observations from early on in the season, and look at what's coming up next, what's on tap next, so to say. So before we jump in, listeners, make sure go and subscribe on Tap Sportsnet on YouTube and like on Tap Sportsnet on Facebook. Join the comment section with your Hawks Happy Hour takes here. You can come and feature them on the broadcast. Make sure you go and follow us on Twitter at Four Feathers Pod and at On Tap Sportsnet. So without further ado, boys, the tank is on. Let's get tanked here. Hawks are 0-2-0, kind of what we expected. Lost at Colorado, lost at Vegas last night, some back-to-back action to open this season. Just early initial thoughts on this team after watching, two games.
Yeah, I think it's so hard after Wednesday night's game, Johnny, because you're literally playing the best team in the league. Like, let's just call a spade a spade. They looked lost. It was game number one. Clearly, Colorado's speed came out. But then Vegas, things settled down a little more. And I think that's what we're going to see more of this year is they're going to get beat. But they're still going to, I think, hang around and play hard. And I think that's kind of what I've seen so far is, hey, yeah, these guys know that they're clearly not the most talented team in the league. But Luke Richardson's got them coming out and playing balls to the walls on a nightly basis. I mean, shit, you have it, Johnny, for us in your lovely rundown here. 41 hits yesterday against Vegas. That is cool and fucking tough. Cool and tough hockey. They're just banging bodies, passion. Man. Yeah, banging bodies and pucks in deep, like that.
Four lines, banging bodies all night.
Banging bodies all night. And it's, you know what, I'll tell you, they're 0-2. But damn it, it was fun watching them back and kind of getting a little bit of a flavor of like who plays well together, and like the Max Domi experiment looks like it's going to be fun this year. And I don't know, there's something about this team. It's going to be really weird falling in love with a team that's this bad. But they're going to have their own little quirks that get us excited. I like the way they're playing. They're playing hard, even though they're not the most talented team out there.
I just like that they're following the plan so far, guys. 0-2, they're following the plan. They're getting out to an early lead in terms of what you guys referenced on the last show in the Tankathon standings. But, overall, I think that, you touched on something, Ron, and that's the physical play. Hawks haven't had a really physical team in what feels like forever. Guys that are going to be out there that are chippy. I know Johnny normally picks out one guy on the team. Right now, it seems to be Sam Lafferty. You saw him throwing some gloves down. But I think you're going to get a lot more of that from this team, and not just guys who are out there to be bruisers, but just actually playing that more physical style of hockey, finishing checks.
Giving a shit about getting to those board battles, right? That's the biggest thing, I think.
You've got a bunch of guys who at least seem hungry to go into the corners, at least that seem hungry to finish their checks and do shit like that. And overall, it's been somewhat entertaining hockey to watch. They're going to have their games where they get blown out. And I think it was completely unfair that they, lined them right up against the Avs game one, but better to get it out of the way early, I guess. Can only be up from there.
My initial thought, guys, is you guys covered a couple of the areas there too, so not going to rehash those. But my initial thought is that they would go into walls last year when they got absolutely hemmed in their own zone and they could not get a thing going the other way. That has not been the case. Maybe a couple you could saw a little bit in second periods. I think the long change did them in a little bit since it was kind of a recurring theme already, even though it's only just been 2 games. That's when they've only had their real kind of instances of that. But they would go just stretches, seemed like whole periods at times last year, in the year before, and the year before that, where they would just essentially look like they were discombobulated all the time. So I think Luke Richardson, the early, kind of feedback on his system is that it is simple enough for these guys to understand and implement, and it's not impossible for them. They're not thinking too much, right? They know their responsibilities. I always go back to a quote Mackenzie Entwistle had during training camp and early in the preseason about if they mess up, it's on them because their expectations are laid out for them. And they know what they're supposed to do. They know where they're supposed to be. So I do like that so far. And like you guys said, for losing both these games, still pretty entertaining. Like Ron, you and I talked about on the show prior to opening night last year. That game was out of hand, like about 12 minutes into the first period. That wasn't the case.
Early.
Sure, they ended up, going down 4-1 at one point in the middle of the second period, but then they did get it back early in that third period with the power play tally there. So, like I said, it's kind of showing up throughout the game because they were absent and dormant for stretches way too long last year.
Yeah, dormant's a good word, Johnny. It really is, because you put it perfectly. The team wasn't playing incredibly hard. They would just, they kind of went through the motions a lot last year.
They'd have a couple of stretches where they got hot, but you know what I'm talking about with the kind of just dormant. That's the best word to describe it.
Yeah, it's a great word. It really is. I think it nails it on the head, Johnny, because, they would really get into those crazy lulls where all of a sudden it's like, have a little bit of life. And that's at least what we've seen from this team through 2 games is some life. And if nothing else, Johnny, I kind of brought it up when you and I talked on Wednesday, was even if this team's losing games, as long as we see the principle that Luke Richardson is laying down and it's being effective and they're buying in, that's just comforting for the future then, because when this team is talented enough at some point in the future to start competing with playoff teams, they're going to bang bodies and they're going to play hard and they're going to be a hard-nosed team. And it's so refreshing, Johnny, right? Because you see it around all of Chicago sports right now. They all want to build in this model of like just being a pain in the ass to play against. And the Hawks have said that, right? They want to be that team that like trying to play against.
Let me stop you right there. The White Sox are not a pain to play against.
Well, fair. But nonetheless, like the Hawks are the way that they wanted their team. What Luke Richardson said on the day he was hired in the press conference of our teams are going to play hard. They're going to, play fast, etc. They're at least doing that. Yes, it's not yielding wins right now because the talent isn't there, but at least you're seeing that heart and hustle. And like you said, they're going into the board, into those board battles. They're going into the corners with kind of a fire lit under their ass a little bit that we haven't seen in the past. So again, a very big positive, I think, from these 2 losses is that it's seeing that application of the vision that Luke Richardson has for this franchise going forward.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way there. And then it just kind of tangible things that you can go and point to, talking about improvements. Granted, it's only 1 game to the next, right? It's only been 2 games so far. However, and once again, I'll go back and refer to what Tony said. A bit unfair to go out and get thrust out there against, the complete fire sale rebuild team against the defending Stanley Cup champions, complete polar opposites ends of the spectrum. Colorado game on Wednesday night, they let up 4 power play goals. Obviously ended up being the difference in the game. But then you go ahead and look at Thursday night's game at Vegas, and they go 3 for 3 on the penalty kill. So I do think there were they could have even stayed out of the box a little bit more. I think they really only should have had 1 penalty in that game. However, penalties are going to happen. It's part of the game, and you saw improvement in that area. They didn't let Vegas burn them. And on those last
active stick, Seth Jones.
Right. Yeah, on those last 2 power plays too, I believe they only allowed 1 shot on each of those. It was the earlier one that had allowed 4, because I believe it was 6 total saves that Stalock made on that penalty kill there. So I did enjoy seeing improvement in that area, especially since it was one thing that burned them. So that tells me that Luke Richardson is in their ear and giving them the message, and then they are receiving the message and then applying it back on the ice.
We've come a long way since Jeremy Colleton, boys. That's all I'm gathering from this. You remember the system that he tried to implement? He always talk about his systems and all these other things. Well, I'm actually sort of seeing some results from a coach who took a team through training camp, sort of instilled his message, and people bought into it. I didn't think that the Blackhawks as a team really bought into anything. And granted, there's a large group of guys who were not here underneath those regimes. But for the Blackhawk fan who's been waiting for a coach since probably Joel Quenneville to come in and actually implement systems and talk about things and then see results on the ice, this really feels like the first time that you've actually seen that. I know King had a little bit of a hot start, but for right now, I know this is small sample size, but I'm taking training camp into this as well. The things that he talked about are things that you're actually seeing applicable on the ice right now, and I think that's refreshing.
Yeah, refreshing. Also another great vocab word. Like this might turn into like finding the vocab words for the season here, because, you know, it is refreshing. It's refreshing seeing. It's refreshing having a sense, and obviously, again, it's early, it's 2 games, but again, like you said, Tony, even in your example, through training camp, right? It's refreshing having a coach that feels like the right hire. That's what's refreshing. We're not all sitting here bashing our heads off the wall about Jeremy Colleton. You know, probably one of the
is he the best
biggest
coach in Chicago right now?
He might be. He legitimately might be, and it's crazy to think that.
Yeah,
but like. Again, it's just, it says so much, I think, about him and how much he's respected. And I love too that with the Richardson hire, and I know we talked about this when he was hired back but again, it wasn't just the old boys club where, you know, some regurgitated head coach who's already been a head coach somewhere is just brought in and they're gonna, you know, oh, he's gonna be the one that leads us. No, like they're letting him grow with the team, and I love that. And again, it's just refreshing, feeling like, wow, maybe they got this right with the right guy in charge. Now it's about getting the right talent in place to play under that right guy in charge.
Johnny, right. I'm just setting Ron up to drink the Kool-Aid here for, 2 or 3 years down the road.
Drinking the Kool-Aid, man.
Yeah, we're drinking the Luke Richardson Kool-Aid here. Hey, anyone in the comments here? I am SKOKS. Thank you. Tune in. Appreciate you, dudes. What's up? Good to have you here. And Hawks Happy Hour. Boys, let's talk a little bit some individual standouts that I saw. Hey, Jonathan Toews took him 20 into his 26th game last year to score. He gets that done in the first period of the first game with power play tally. Very nice setup by Philip Kurashev, too, I might add on that one. But, boys, he looks ready to go this year, whereas that was not the case last year. I know he was still winning faceoffs early on, but now he's doing it all. And he definitely looks more active overall. So good to see the captain get off to a nice start here, especially since, we don't know exactly how much longer he's going to be donning the Indian head sweater.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the first thought for everybody when he got that first one was, hey, we don't have to wait now to see a Jonathan Toews goal this year like we did last year.
I love this quote too. He's like, they asked him about it after. He's like, yeah, I don't want to talk about last year. Like,
yeah, he's like,
he's on to this one.
It was bad. Yeah. We 1 game, we're now 2 games, 1 goal. We're doing good. No, it's great to see. It feels like he's playing with a little bit of kind of maybe new life this year too, right? Last year, like he said. Yeah, like last year was just such a weird year. He hadn't played hockey in almost a full calendar year up to that point, getting back, into the swing of things. Just a weird season in general with everything that happened off the ice. And it's like, yeah, he looks like Jonathan Toews again, which is refreshing because, again, a guy that I think as a collective, we as Blackhawks fans, we're kind of starting to like write off as like, hey, he's not the same Jonathan Toews anymore. And he certainly still isn't, but he looks more like himself than he did last season. We're still seeing that two-way center that gets the job done. And I got a name that I want to throw out there too, but I want to hear from Tony about Mr. Taser because It is just really good to see him get on the score sheet. And again, last season we wait 26 games. First goal of the season for the Chicago Blackhawks comes from the captain. It felt very appropriate.
I think it just kind of hashtag confirms that Jonathan Toews was happy that he was coming into a season without Jeremy Colleton, and he walked into the marketing department and he said, hashtag ready to work. And he went right to work, got his first goal, first game, and I think he's the one that came up with the slogan. That's my conspiracy tinfoil hat time here on Hawks Happy Hour.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, Ron, hit us with another one here. You said you got another name here. Let's go. Let's fire through some of these.
Max Domi gets his first goal in game number 1 as well, going hard to the net. Again, not the biggest guy in the world, but he plays with a tenacity and a flair that certainly resembles that of his father, old Ty Domi. But it's good to see him starting off quick, because Max Domi isn't historically and in the course of his career been a major goal scorer. He's much more of a pass first guy. You look at all of his offensive numbers throughout his career, it's a lot of assists, right? Even his best career seasons, I think his best goal scoring season is like, I want to say maybe 21 goals, 22 goals, something like that. Like he's not a 30 goal scorer, but he's shown he can put up 50, 60 points via the dish. It's good to see him get his first point of the season via a goal, especially in a hard-nosed area like that, right in front of the net, just banging her home. So Max Domi really stood out to me in that first game as well. Obviously, the goal certainly helps, but he was all over the place, and it's exactly what you want to see, because Johnny, like we told people, appreciate Max Domi, but don't get too attached, because if he keeps playing like that, he's going to fetch a really pretty return at the deadline.
Right, yeah, he's off to a good start there too. At first, I think he started off just a tad bit slow in that game, but once again, these guys are all trying to find, A, their legs, and B, find each other on the ice. It takes a little bit to get that chemistry going, right? But I'll go and then build on that one, Ron. And the guy that tossed him that assist on his goal was Mr. Tyler Johnson. He's had himself a decent start to this year. Good to see after him coming. I know he did come back late last year after the neck surgery, but I just never knew if he was going to get back to that same level of kind of playmaking. However, he had that feed for the assist on Domi's goal. And then last night, he was very, very, very close to putting the Blackhawks on the board in that game. Just a stellar save by Logan Thompson in the Vegas net there to kind of deflect it up. I believe went up into the netting there. But he definitely had one of the best looks of the night. I saw the replay about 3 times as they slowed it down on NHL Network. And in the moment, it all happened so fast. I didn't realize how good of a save it was by Thompson. But Johnson was about to snipe, top shelf there. So I've liked his game too so far. And it's nice to see him also be able to get involved along the boards too. Because once again, with an injury like that, you don't know how much contact he's going to be willing to take. Well, looks like he's ready to work, as the slogan goes. Tony, who you got? I know you're looking in the net there.
I was going to save this netminder discussion for a little bit later on within the show, but we can get to it. I was really impressed with Stalock last night. I thought that, he was really impressive. I don't know too much about Vegas. I do know they've been a thorn in our side for a very long time, despite us, eliminating them from playoff contention last year. I just keep talking about that, and we'll keep talking about that, and we'll keep talking about that, because that's my favorite memory of the Blackhawks playing them. But I thought that he was really aggressive in net, showed a lot of different things that we haven't seen out of Blackhawks goaltending in a while. But overall, he kept you in this game, gave you a chance to win. I had no expectations for a Blackhawks win last night. And if it wasn't for him standing on his head multiple times, I think the Blackhawks score probably looks similar to what they had going on the other night in Colorado. So early returns are in. I know who I want in net when I show up to the UC. That's just me right now. Early returns. Where are you guys at?
Alex Stalock is like in Chell when you go and you activate the goalie and play with the user as the goalie, and you play aggressive as shit. He was like out a good, honestly,
Yes.
It had to be close to 10 feet on top of the crease for one of those saves there on Riley Smith coming down the wing last night. And he loves
Johnny, it reminds me of a little bit of old time hockey.
Yeah, it does a little bit too. Like, kind of like the pad stacks. I know he didn't do any of that, but when they get out,
You should break that
like,
out
really,
into his repertoire.
like
yes.
flail and Yeah, that's what it looks like though when you see Stalock. So yeah, it's interesting there. You say that, but I mean, obviously, outstanding. The numbers don't lie. 36 of 37, stopped all 6 power play shots that he saw last night at Vegas. So I was impressed with Stalock too, and I got to give Mrazek credit too because we talked about the Hawks being thrown in overall to the fire, so to say, against the Avalanche there in game 1. Well, he only let up 1 even strength goal. And I will say the Hawks did play the Avs okay at even strength overall. When you go and look at the numbers at 5-on-5, it was the power play that did them in. And some of those tips, man, they are the Colorado Avalanche are a machine on the power play. So I know it doesn't look good overall when you just go and look at the box score and the numbers and say, oh, well, Mrazek gave up 5. But you got to remember, only one of those at even strength. 4 of those are power plays, courtesy of the juggernaut that the Colorado Avalanche are. So I would say overall, though, obviously Stalock has made more of an impression from the net there. But it's
you're only as good as your last envelope, Johnny.
Right?
We've discussed this before on various different platforms. You're only as good as your last envelope, and the goalie envelopes came in, and one was a little bit heavier than the other.
I think Stalock would have given up 5 if he was in net against the Avalanche too, though. That's my only kind of take on it too. But
it's just great coaching from Luke Richardson,
right, yeah. But I was impressed with Stalock's play style too, because I remember seeing him a couple years ago in Minnesota. Obviously, the last time he really got some consistent action was at like the 1920 season there. But it was definitely it's a different style, so it was fun to watch.
Yeah, his controlled flailing almost reminds me, stylistically, not certainly playing career-wise, of our last season's Marc-Andre Fleury. Kind of played that way, that controlled flailing, and it looked like, oh my God, he's just flailing around. It's like, no, but he knows what he's doing. Like, that is kind of Stalock's method. He is very aggressive, and yeah, I mean, Tony, to your point, I think this is the perfect season where you don't really have a true number 1 goalie. Like, yeah, on like Johnny, we discussed, in our little.
Do you need one? I mean, Ron, do you need a number 1 goalie?
Well, right, exactly. That's what that's kind of where I'm going. Right? Like on paper, it's Peter Mrazek, right? Because he makes the bigger money, and he's been a starter in his career, where Stalock has pretty much consistently been a backup for majority of his career. But to your point, Tony, right? We don't really, as the Chicago Blackhawks franchise doesn't really need a number 1 goalie this season. So why not ride the hot hand?
Right.
I would not be mad at all to see Alex Stalock in net tomorrow night.
You hit the keyword there, Ron. And I just wanted to say Alex Stalock has gotten some of his recognition in years past for going on those hot stretches, whereas Mrazek has just kind of been like you'd said, had opportunities for starters, at various locations where he's been. However, Alex Stalock kind of bulldozed his way into that Minnesota net back when he had his good season. So I just wanted to add that in, since you hit the keyword and it just put the light bulb off in my head, the ride the hot hand there.
Yeah, it feels like that should be the method this season, right? Because it to me, this is a year for the franchise. Let's call a spade here really quick in net, right? Peter Mrazek and Alex Stalock are not here probably beyond the length of these contracts. I think Mrazek has another 1 or 2 years after this, and Stalock is exclusively on a 1-year deal. These guys aren't the goalies of the future here, right? It's the potentially the Drew Comessos and some of these other young guys that are in the system, Arvid Soderblom and all of these guys. These are the goalies of the future, or at least guys that they're considering for that position. You don't have a number 1. Let these guys just go in spurts, right? Like if Peter Mrazek gets hot for a 3 or 4 game stretch, let him keep going until he fizzles out, and then give Stalock a run. Like I in terms of, again, not in terms of season results, but in terms of like game share, I wouldn't be mad to see like an Antti Niemi Cristobal Huet first year of the cup run split where it's like 40 and 42 games. I think that's very okay. I think Mrazek will probably end up playing more than 50 at the end when it's all said and done. But again, Johnny, to your point, right? Like Stalock has done this in his career where he can go on these little hot stretches and get hot for periods of time. If that ends up allowing him to play 38 to 40 games, I'm not mad about it.
Which goalie am I going to get more pissed off at on this show this year? I'm going to take early bets from both of you. We'll go Johnny first.
Well, you already have your mind made up, so it's going to be.
Okay, all right, right.
I think. Oh, this is interesting.
Well, you think they're on. I was going to add a caveat that
Yeah, add the caveat.
You should be more at Stalock because there's going to be times where that aggressiveness bites him and it bites the Hawks, and it might be in a crucial situation. So,
Jonathan, you took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah.
Although, am I going to be mad? That's the question. Am I? This is such a weird Hawk season. This is going to be a fun year on this show.
Well, and
who do you got, Ron? You're taking Mrazek as well.
I'm gonna take Mrazek, but here's why. I agree with Johnny. I think there will be times that Stalock drives you berserk because he does something too aggressively and it nips him in the butt. But I think because Mrazek is the higher paid goaltender and has kind of that starter tag attached to him, I think if he has games where he just doesn't look like he's came to play, I think that's going to make your blood boil more than, a guy like Alex Stalock who's making almost the vet minimum and, is expected to, be a backup goalie, right? Like, I think that's going to be the difference. And that's just kind of what it is. And like what you said on the show too, Tony, like you said, right? It's going to be a fun season because it is such a weird year in terms of expectation. That we wanted to remind everybody on our opening show that you got to have fun with the season. Find ways to make it fun, right? We're out here talking Hawks happy hours. This is how we're making it fun. We're going to have our, atrium, pregame beers and everything like that throughout the year. But yeah, I think Mrazek's going to drive you more nuts, but I think they're both going to drive you nuts.
Yeah, we need to hook Tony up. Hook Tony up to the blood pressure rating and see which one actually riles him up. Or get the sign behind it.
This would be a fun thing. We could try this out. We'll get a blood pressure machine. We'll hook it up in my basement. We'll watch the Hawks games, and we'll see who drives me nuts more in net. And and then we can decide whether or not I'm gonna watch tonight's game based on who's in net. We'll figure it out real quick. My doctor would approve it.
Yeah. There you go.
That's amazing.
You're getting regular checks. It might not be at healthy levels, but at least you're getting checked.
There you go. I was just curious. I got one last question on the goaltending situation, boys. Are these the only two goalies that we are going to see, barring injury? Are these the only two goalies that you're going to see this year?
You'll see Arvid Soderblom at some point. There's going to be an injury. There's going to be illness. Flu season comes around in Chicago. It's bound to happen. And Soderblom did get some time last year. You're going to see him at some point. Might only be for just maybe a handful of games, but I believe he will at some point due to whatever it may be. Whatever these circumstances dictate, he would be the first one up from Rockford. There, you're not getting Jackson Stauber up. So.
Yeah, and I'll even go ahead and tail on that a little bit too. And there was already today in Winnipeg, their head coach has COVID. So there's rumblings and rumors that with flu season, COVID numbers are going to increase again. I don't think they're ever going to get back to the 2020 level again, just because of, it's been around, people have become used to it, and obviously the vaccines and whatever. But there's always a decent chance, right, that one of these guys, just catches COVID and it's, okay, he's out for a week or, whatever the local kind of regulations are. Now, all of a sudden, okay, it's Soderblom's time.
That's
good luck, Soderblom. You got to go up and play Toronto on Hockey Night in Canada. Have fun.
Well, yeah, good luck. Good luck. You got the next game against the Avs when they're going to pepper you with 40 shots.
Yeah, I'm just curious when we're going to see a goalie that we're going to get enamored with the same way we did Corey Crawford. I don't think that we've got that right now.
You have to wait for.
We're going to have to wait a couple of years. But I was just curious what you guys' thinking was. Is there any way that there's a goalie in this organization that's not at the NHL level right now is going to play themselves into Chicago at some point this year? And I think my answer to that's no. I wanted to see where you guys were.
Yeah, it's Soderblom, and he's still under contract for I would have to go and look it up, but I believe it's not just this year. I believe he's under for more than that. So and he's not Rockford's number one there as well. So that would be your first.
Do we miss Kevin Lankinen yet?
Based on last year, no. And he also is a trader, went to Trashville. So
yeah, I know. Very mad at that. Very, very mad at that.
We got the anti-Kevin Lankinen because Kevin was calm, cool, and collected. So now we got the wild, flailing, wacky, wavy, inflatable arm flailing tube man, Alex Stalock.
Yeah, and that's I've actually got a little wacky
do.
waveable
You do,
inflatable
yeah.
armband. We're gonna have to bring him out when Stalex says. Maybe that's why I like that guy.
Put him right next to the TV, Tony, and then we'll definitely get a video of Staylock just like coming like 20 feet out of the crease to
I'm gonna have to go bust that
Somersault.
wacky wavy inflatable arm waving two-man
It's
every
great.
start.
Yeah,
Perfect. I knew there was a use for this.
I think we can make like a paper jersey, a paper Staylock jersey for him, Tony. I think that needs to happen.
I think we do too. He's desktop size too.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, we're gonna have to bust that out for some of these Staylock games. I love it, Johnny. This is fantastic happy hour.
This is great. I love this, boys. Some Hawks happy hour here. We appreciate it. Jump in the YouTube comments on Tap Sportsnet on YouTube. Go subscribe there. Press the little notification button so you know when we go live. Don't miss these in the future. And also drop your comments in here. We'd love to hear your takes on how you're getting through this Hawks season. All right, boys, we talked in net. I want to move it up to the blue line really quick. And my God, we expect a lot of him, Ron. You and I had talked leading up in training camp and all of this, and this guy, because he's getting paid so much, he's going to be here, for the next decade, essentially.
Forever and ever.
Seth Jones is earning his money right now. That guy has been playing heavy minutes as we expected, but he's been playing them effectively. He's got a burst in his skate, and he's also got an active stick, something you mentioned earlier, Tony, and it is excellent to see. He's also involving himself in the rush. I know he did have a little gaffe on the power play where he was out of the zone, and he got the clip of Kaner saying, "Where the fuck are you going?" But besides that, he has been the number one D-man as you expect this year, and he's got a little shove to his game this year too. He doesn't look as timid as he did, which it's like weird to say that someone that's 6'4" like that is like, and how big and strong he is, that they were timid, but that's kind of the vibe that you got last year. None of that this year. He is definitely earning his money so far. So I am happy with Seth Jones, and you guys know me. I've been a big, just based on the contract, my expectations are high for him. So I'm glad he is at that bar right now.
Johnny, this is why Four Feathers runs so smoothly, right? Because like a great line in hockey, we have great line chemistry here at Four Feathers, because you literally read my mind. I was thinking exactly, what do we want to talk about next? And I wanted to talk about Seth Jones, because yes, you absolutely nailed it. He looks so much different. And maybe some of it, Johnny, is you mentioned kind of that edge to his game this year that he didn't have last year. I think he heard some of the critics. I really do. I think he heard a lot of people going,
Good.
"Wow, we paid this guy $9.5 million for 8 years."
I'm glad he did.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it's fantastic. Like, obviously, yeah, last year he was a big minutes guy, and he still racked up plenty of points. I think he was the team's second or third leading scorer because of all the assists, but didn't score a lot of goals, wasn't really playing very physical. He was just out there being a number one defenseman and eating minutes. Now he looks like that guy that's earning the role. And, maybe too, Johnny, some of it is maybe he feels like he has more of a voice and a leadership role on this team now, where last season, obviously the A's that were split were the Cat and Murphy. And now he's splitting that A with Murphy. And maybe he does feel that sense of, hey, this is kind of, he's going to be here long enough. It kind of is, in a way, partially his team, right? Like, hey, these are my guys. I got to play hard. I got to earn the respect of my teammates and the money that I'm making, because he is, after this season, the highest paid player on the roster, because Kane and Taves' $10.5 million are going to fall off. And even Kane's next contract, I don't think is going to be that high. So, it's good to see him step up and look like, I think, what every Hawks fan thought they were getting when they acquired Seth Jones.
And I'm going to go back to a quote that Eddie O, we miss him here, but something that he always said, accept and execute, right? That was kind of more for role players that he was talking about. I'll apply it in this sense to Seth Jones, in that he has finally accepted, kind of reaching a quote that he had said during the preseason. He has accepted that the Blackhawks are in a rebuild, and he is going to be a key piece of guiding them through it. And now he's executing by leading by example on the ice.
Yeah, and you love to see it. And again, another refreshing take of this team this year is, I want to look at the end of the year like you and I have talked about, Johnny, and even with Tony last season. I would love to look up at the stat sheet at the end of the year after 82 games, and he plays, 79 games, right? Inevitably, a guy's going to miss a game here or there. But, he's playing high 70s games, maybe all 82 if he's able to stay healthy. and has maybe 10 goals and 50 assists, and you're like, wow, a 60-point defenseman would be sick. Like, that's awesome. That's exactly what you expect out of a guy that's making $9.5 million. And he'd be the first, 60-plus point defenseman that this Hawks team has had since Duncan Keith. So it would be really refreshing to be able to see him have that kind of season this year. Yes, obviously, I mean, plus minus is such a flawed stat, but that's going to be egregious. But, if he's hitting people, he's blocking shots, if he's doing everything that you expect a $9.5 million number one defenseman to do, again, it's just a refreshing sense that, okay, Seth Jones is going to play a meaningful role in this team even now. And hopefully when this team is starting to become competitive, maybe he's not the number one at that point in time. If a guy like Kevin Korchinski, develops accordingly that the way the Hawks hope he does, but he's still going to be a big time piece on this blue line for really the better part of the next decade.
All right, Tony, what do you got on Seth there?
I mean, I feel like we've been drinking a lot of Blackhawks Kool-Aid on this episode so far, so I'm going to try not to piss all over it, but I've got some thoughts on the whole Seth Jones stuff. And Johnny, some of this may have been driven by late-night conversations with you on the phone, so I apologize for maybe being negative here. Ron, your whole sentiment on it, I think it's awesome that Seth Jones has taken on this role and kind of figured out that, hey, I've got to do this. I'm going to be part of this rebuild, kind of accepted it. I think this whole entire thing is just absolutely still the wrong situation for this guy. And it's absolutely abysmal that he's locked up here for so long. It's great that he's doing these right things. He didn't have it last year. There were issues with this, but let's be real. Now is the clock in time to see, all right, here it's going to go for a while. You've got him on this first year of this contract here. What's it going to look like in year two after the losing starts to get to you? After you've lost 10 games in a row, that's when I want to see Seth Jones still doing exactly what he's doing right now and still playing that hard and bringing that energy. And that's up to Luke Richardson and Seth Jones more than Luke Richardson. But I want to see what it's like when we get into the dog days of the season. And what kind of effort level are we getting out of this highest paid number one defenseman? And you're right, Ron, 60-point defense. I'm expecting that. That's floor for Seth Jones for me, because guess what? You're making big fucking dollars. You are the highest paid player in this organization going forward for a while. You better be a fucking star. You need to be a household name in Chicago for everybody who's a Blackhawks fan, and even a little bit more reach than that. If he's going to be the face of this thing, if Kane and Taves are gone and he's the highest paid guy, there's no slouching. You're the face, you're the franchise, you are the number one. And still, I don't think that the play is there. Yes, there's been improvements, but I want more. I want this guy throwing the body around. I want him making a name for himself. I want him on SportsCenter, Hockey Tonight, NHL Network, all the time talking about what Seth Jones is doing in Chicago and outplaying how good, he can be even on this rebuilding team, because you make that money by being the star of the team. And yes, you want some solid defense. Sometimes it's always said, if you don't see a defenseman on the ice, that's a good thing. Guess what? You're that fucking big. I want to see you all over the ice. That's kind of my take. I'm not sold yet. It's been a nice improvement, but we're going to need to see this consistently and even take it up a notch for me, just so that we can get to the point where this contract's justified at some point. Because if he is in a 3-4 role by the time the Hawks are good, okay. But if you're playing bottom pair defense by the time the Hawks are good again, this thing is even more of a disaster, because there's no way to move it. It's not Kyle Davidson's fault that he's here. It's not Seth Jones' fault that he's here. It's an unfortunate circumstance, but there's only one way to rectify it, and that's to be an absolute force out there and make yourself a household name in Chicago, and that's what I expect him to do. Anything less, we're still in the same boat, and we can make all the excuses that we want. It's just a fucking atrocious fact that he is here and locked up to these dollars at this point and this juncture. Johnny, I think I've talked to you a little bit too much about Seth Jones. I'll hand it back over to you.
Yeah, I mean, brutally honest, but fairly fair assessment. I would go and say there, Tony. It's that's why I kind of got on that kind of not ragging on him, but wanting more, right? That kind of train last year. So I agree. I want to see more, but I will say for all intents and purposes, through 2 games, very small sample size, he is off on the right foot. I will go ahead and say that. Obviously, we do want to see him score there, but Blackhawks haven't been doing much scoring overall. Obviously, a couple power play tallies in that first game of the year. So my question here, as we get close to winding this down, guys, how do the Blackhawks score? How do they fix the scoring woes? They don't have an even strength goal this year yet. Obviously, they got shut out in their most recent game Thursday night at Vegas. How do the Blackhawks score? How do you fix the Blackhawks offense here? I want all suggestions from logical to off the wall and tinfoil hat time here. Everything's on the table. Let's go.
Well, I'll start it off with logical, and then we can let this thing spiral off the rails here at some point. But I think a logical way that they're going to score goals, Johnny and Tony, is like Eddie always said, for all you young hockey players out there, go to the net. They're going to be greasy, dirty, gross
Tommy
goals.
did do that.
Yes, and even Taves, right? I mean, that goal is scored from 5-6 feet out in front of the crease. I mean, great pass by Philip Kurashev. Holy shit, that's a guy too. If he has anywhere near a decent season, that's a steal of a player at $750K or whatever the hell he makes. But like, you're gonna have to score goals within 5 and 6 and 7 feet of the crease. It's not gonna be Patrick Kane out on the dot sniping every time. You're gonna get those still. They'll come. You'll see them throughout the season. But it's really gonna be go to the net, apply that pressure to the goaltender and to the opposing defenders in their own zone. And that slot is going to be where people make their money this season. Like if you want to be the Blackhawks leading goal scorer this year, if not named Patrick Kane, go to the dirty area, get your body in front, and just clean up anything else. And then the D getting involved, to echo off of what Tony said. Seth Jones needs to be a star, needs to start shooting more, needs to help put the puck in the net. And even just some of the other guys, just get the puck to the net. And then that's when that dirty area presence comes into play. You clean up the rebounds. And again, it's not going to be pretty, but if they're going to have any kind of offense this year, it's just going to have to be down and dirty in the crease area.
Luck. You're going to need a lot of luck. Puck luck, good luck, bad luck from the other team. Any kind of luck you can get, you're going to need it. I actually was thinking about this question as I fell asleep last night, Johnny. It's funny that you ask, how do the Blackhawks score? I spent a considerable amount of time thinking that to myself after yesterday's game. And I couldn't find an answer in my head, and I still can't find an answer right now. Ron, you said, you got to get to the net. You got to get to the dirty areas. You got to make things happen. You see the Hawks doing that, but I just don't think that there's so much finesse. When you get past the first 2 lines of this team outside of, Max Domi, Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, a little bit of Philip Kurashev, which, by the way, I was also thinking to myself, does anybody in Chicago that doesn't absolutely love the Blackhawks know who Philip Kurashev is? If you saw him in Jewel, would you even know that it was Philip Kurashev? Isn't that a shame? Anyway, how do the Blackhawks score? I have no fucking clue. And I think that, the front office and the coaching staff and even the players probably top Google search result after these first couple games is how to score 5-on-5 because they've got to be looking at shit. I just downloaded Chell the other night. I couldn't score in the first 2 games. Fucking straight to YouTube. They should just be watching YouTube on how to score goals. That's what the kids are doing these days. They're going to YouTube. They're learning how to do things. Go on YouTube, how to score 5-on-5. Look at some strategy, maybe discuss it in the locker room. That and probably fucking truckloads of smelling salts.
Yes,
need a lot of smelling
you
salts.
stole mine. You stole
They're
it.
going to need a lot of smelling salts. Get yourself jacked up. Sometimes if you're, you got that heart rate pumping, maybe a couple of espressos in the locker room on intermission. Get out there and just get jacked up. Just skate it straight into the goalie and see if it goes in. I don't know. Score goals. Outside of Patrick Kane, there's not a lot there.
You absolutely stole mine, Tony. I was going straight to Amazon, pallet smelling salts delivered to the locker room, wherever you're at. Absolutely need it. Absolutely need to get that heart rate jacked up. Need the extra energy. I saw a couple clips from, I believe it was Alexis Lafreniere, sharing it with his head coach. So maybe Luke Richardson needs his little smelling salts as well to put a little extra spice in that message there. So I would go with that. And then other than that, a point that you made, Ron, D getting involved. This kind of kind of goes back to what we talked about with Seth Jones, but we want to see more from him production-wise, right? Point-wise, we want to see more goals, especially because I know he did rack up some assists last year, but we want to see goals. He's got a big shot, big, hard, heavy shot. He's in a competition with his brother, Caleb, for who can score more goals. And I believe they have a running bet going. Caleb won it last year over Seth. So it's revenge time for Seth, but B, everyone could take a tip from Caleb Jones getting the puck to the net. And I will say, I know they haven't gone in yet, but Jack Johnson has the message. I think he is carrying that over from the Colorado Avalanche last year, especially since they had so many big bodies out in front to be able to help redirect things home or clean up loose change. But getting those pucks through, I saw Jared Tenorti rip one as well. Seth has had a couple of opportunities to do so as well, but Caleb Jones is going to be a guy who generates a lot of shots. So you're probably going to get pissed off with him sometimes in the defensive zone. But my God, he will fly that zone and then go help out on the offensive end. So from the blue line is going to be a big factor if the Blackhawks are going to score this year, because the forward talent up front, like Tony had said, when you go and look past those first couple of lines, not a whole lot of scoring prowess. There are some nice players in there. I'm not going to go and, diss my boy Sam Lafferty, but he needs to be more on the greasy in front of the net, like you had talked about, Ron, on that program. Whereas, your Athanasiou, your Kurashev, and your Kane are going to be more of your outside guys. So everybody else in there, get to the front of the net and clean up loose change, but that will also be generating that loose change by getting shots in from the back end there. So that's what we've got for Hawks scoring woes here. All right, boys, let's take a look at what's on tap next before we close this thing down. Guys, I think they're getting their first win of the year. Prediction here. I think they're getting their first win of the year at San Jose Saturday night. That's a 9:00 puck drop our time here. The Sharks were at the top of that Tankathon standings because they played over in Prague, lost a pair to the Nashville Predators, but they come back, and guess what? They got a shitty schedule because they had like the whole week off from playing last Friday and Saturday. They got the whole week off. Now they played this Friday and Saturday. And who do they have coming to town tonight? It's the Carolina Hurricanes, who are probably going to run them out of their own building on their home opener night. And they're going to be down in the dumps. And I think the Blackhawks will send them to 4-0. To start the season. I do think the Hawks get it done after, just seeing the improvements that were made from game 1 to game 2. But that's immediately what's on tap next. And then the Hawks will have a little break of their own before coming home for the home opener a week from tonight, which we will all be in attendance for. So looking forward to that. But your guys' thoughts, do the Blackhawks get a win, or they finish this road trip 0-3?
Johnny, I too was looking at the schedule when we talked on Wednesday, and I also had this one kind of not penned in, but penciled in as the Hawks' first victory of the season, because that you have time off coming up. They have pretty much all of next week off. I mean, they don't play again until next Friday. So you got the time off coming up. You're finishing out. You played a pretty overall solid game against Vegas. Yes, you lost, but you only lost 1-0, and it was a 2-on-1. Like, otherwise, they played a pretty solid hockey game against a pretty good Vegas team. They're not Vegas, even the last couple of years, but they're still at least a playoff contender in the West. So I think they run into San Jose. San Jose is going to be tired too because of playing tonight as well. They're at home, but again, second game of a back-to-back for the Sharks. So I'm really hoping that we get the Hawks' first win of the season.
Do that one more time.
The Sharks.
Oh, Pat Foley is here in spirit. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
I really do. I really think that they're going to have a chance. Maybe Andreas Athanasiou, which is going to be Tony's spelling assignment. Maybe he pots his first in a Blackhawks uniform. Maybe the D gets involved. Maybe we get Caleb Jones or Seth Jones starting the sibling rivalry for the season, getting on the board. And I'd also like to see Showtime just be Showtime and have a big game. The Hawks always play well against the Sharks, even when they're a good team, and they're not a good team right now. They're also kind of in this weird, we're rebuilding, we're not rebuilding. We have some guys, but we don't have a lot of guys kind of space. So it'd be good. It'd be really nice to see the Hawks go ahead and get their first win for Luke Richardson on the road.
You guys are breathing so much positivity into here. It's almost refreshing. As you said before, Ron, refreshing, all this positivity. I think the Hawks can take on the San Jose Sharks and come back with a victory here. So I'm going to add on and triple down on this one. Hawks get their first win. We'll drink some victory beers. We haven't been able to run that edit yet from the Four Feathers account. If you're not following that, make sure you are at Four Feathers Pod on Twitter. Johnny, I think we're gonna come out of this with about a 3-2 victory. Maybe see another Kane goal, maybe 2. I'd like that. Two Kane goals.
Yeah.
Ron, I'm going to throw this back to you for a second. Is this the first game that you would lay money on the Hawks this season?
Are you saying that we're smelling a little Hawks money line for the Four Feathers crew here?
I might lay some Hawks money line.
I can get behind that. I think I'll join you on that train.
We need to go and ping on-tap bets for the first time this year in favor of the Hawks, right?
Yes, I think we need to go ping on-tap bets. Take the Hawks. I like it.
Yeah, it's a Four Feathers guarantee if we're all predicting it. So speak it into existence, right? I'll go with just a little bit of a prediction here before we wrap up. You talked about potential for scoring. I would like Kane or 2 up front, but from the back end, like we talked about, how do the Blackhawks score 5-on-5? How's it going to get done? I know it. I praised Caleb Jones' ability to get the puck to the net. However, it's going to be Jack Johnson to score the first goal from the back end because that guy, he just does it. He doesn't need to be prodded to. He doesn't need to be in the perfect situation. He's a veteran guy. He's seen every single look that you can possibly have from the point, and he did it in the preseason as well. So I will go with Jack Johnson for the first goal from the Blackhawks blue line. Not overall, but from the blue line.
I like it. I'm a big fan of that.
I've got one last thing, Johnny, before we all get out of here. The celebration. I see a comment that just came in here. Didn't the Hawks start last season also playing the defending Cup champs on the road, no less? But that just wants to...
They did play at Colorado to start their season last year, but obviously Colorado did not win the year prior. That was the Lightning. So
okay.
But so they did still have to start at Colorado.
Banner-raising ceremonies is where I'm going with this. We all sat through the Colorado banner-raising. We've seen some banner raisings ourselves. Compare Colorado's banner raising to what you saw from our Blackhawks team, because I don't know. I don't know if I was impressed, and I wanted to hear your guys' reactions to it.
Well, I mean, how much they got Mark Hoppus under contract for? That's what I want to know. Get the whole song. I'm sorry. I know that was like their thing. They would all sing all the small things, right? That was kind of their shtick last year during the playoffs, but they did the whole song apparently. That's what reports said. They obviously showed parts of it on that TNT broadcast, but the Hawks have done it so much better. Our guy Comiskey reshared that video of the 2010 banner raising ceremony. I was there in attendance after when they were raising the 2013 banner. Hawks do it much better. Their teams of video editors and production team at the United Center on site. 100 times better than whatever the Colorado Avalanche did. I will say for them out there, probably a cool moment to go and relive that and be in unison and sing that. So good for them. However, in terms of production value, doesn't even come close to any of the Blackhawks celebrations.
Yeah, I'll second that. That's one thing the Blackhawks have always been incredibly good at, league-wide, really, is a great media department and a great product that comes out from those graphics teams. They absolutely do a great job, and I agree. I think it's so much better. I still, every time I hear Safe and Sound, I still think of the 2013, video. Like that's just, it's embedded in my brain. I will give Colorado a little bit of credit, though, gentlemen, because they at least did better for their banner raising ceremony than the Trashville Mustard Cats did when they raised their, we came in fourth place. We came in
NHL banner. Yeah.
We came in fourth place, and we cut our toes without taking any skin off. Like their terrible banner raising is at least the Avs did it better. I also didn't like how the banner looked. I think the banner is atrociously ugly. The gray, the weird like script writing, it just didn't look good. So there's something about looking at those beautiful banners that hang at the UC because they just hit differently. So I agree. Definitely. Yeah, there you go. Johnny's got them on his ceiling. That's exactly it. Like they look so much better. Agreed though, Johnny. Good for them. I'm sure that was awesome. I'm sure as an Avs fan, that was probably an incredible moment being in attendance for that. But yeah, there's 3 banner raisings in our history and of our lives, gentlemen, that we can point to that I think were much better done as a product for the viewer, whether it was your team or not, than what we saw on Wednesday evening.
Love it, guys. I
Right.
was just curious on what you guys thought of the banner raising ceremony.
Yeah. All right. Let's close down. We do got one last question here. Fly the Dub. Thanks for joining in the comments here on our YouTube page on Tap Sportsnet. He says, who gets to start and goal next game? Not announced yet, so not official. But if you were riding the hot hand, you would probably go Alex Stalock. They did have a day off in between. I would imagine they're on the rotational sort of bridge here, though. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Peter Mrazek back in there. Any thoughts?
Right there with you, Johnny. I think, if you go based on just the first two games of performance, I absolutely would give the nod to Stalock, but I agree with you. They're going to give Peter Mrazek every opportunity, especially early on in this season, to be the guy. So I think he gets to start.
Yeah, we talk about riding the hot hand. There's just so little to go off of there. Sure, you had those, and then but you go and, like I talked about, you go and look at what would Alex Stalock have done against the Colorado Avalanche. Would he have fared any better? Who knows? Would his over aggressiveness have doomed him to give up more? And then even though he had a good look at Vegas, he might have looked atrocious by box score at Colorado. I don't know. For that reason alone, I think you're just going to go 1-2, 1-2 for right now to start.
I'm with Johnny on this one. I think they're going to rotate this sort of back and forth, at least while they let the dust settle here and figure out who's, the best option. I'm going back to Mrazek for this game.
Yep. Sounds about right. All right, gentlemen, it was a pleasure drinking with you, talking with you here at Hawks Happy Hour on the Four Feathers podcast. Great to be back. Obviously, another game here before a little bit of off time, but that's Saturday night, 9:00 out in San Jose. So follow along with us at Four Feathers Pod on Twitter and on Tap Sportsnet as well. We'll be sharing out some content during that game. It's Saturday night, so we like to get a little rowdy here at the Four Feathers podcast. That will surely be in full effect Saturday night. Boys, hit me with the final thought from this one, and then we will sign off for the evening.
Luke Richardson style hockey is cool and tough, gentlemen.
It's great to be back on the mic talking Blackhawks hockey. It's been entertaining hockey so far. Let's hope that they keep playing that brand. Ron hit the nail on the head. Luke Richardson brand of hockey. It's a different style than what we've been seeing from this Blackhawks team in a little while. Let's go get our first win.
Yeah, I think like we did in the predictions here. So I guess the betting advice there is we're going Hawks money line for this game coming up Saturday at San Jose. It'll be a rough start for them, but then the Hawks will need to do some later catching up in those tankathon standings. If that's the case, that would drop the Sharks presumably to 0-4-0. I don't see them beating the Carolina Hurricanes even on their home ice tonight, but who knows? We'll see what happens. Be sure go and follow us, like I said, on Twitter at Four Feathers Pod at Untap Sportsnet. Check out untapsportsnet.com for all your Chicago sports literature and podcasting needs, and go and subscribe on YouTube. Like us on Facebook at Untap Sportsnet on both places so you don't miss a show. I would love to have you in the comments for future editions of Hawks Happy Hour. So, gentlemen, that'll wrap it up. Hockey season is #back. Four Feathers podcast is #back. Can't wait to do plenty more of these with you guys this year. Until next time, let's go Hawks.
Let's go Hawks.
Let's go Hawks.